Yo, what's up, Kabbalists?
Hello. Hello.
How's my
Hey,
my gain good?
yeah,
Pretty
you got some
good.
great game.
Okay, okay,
Your
good.
gang
We'll
Gonna
take
have to
or your
gonna have to
your
tax you.
game?
we'll take a moment away
I,
from
I, I would like less headroom on your frame though, like just to see you higher in the frame. There we
yeah, I have a
go.
new monitor here, so I think it's changing things. How's that? Good?
Okay, yeah, yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay.
All
Welcome
right.
everybody.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
You are here moments before blast off. Welcome to the great transition. If all of history was from the Big Bang through the birth of Earth, the birth of all the stars, the formation of all the galaxies, the galaxy we live in, the Milky Way galaxy, the formation of Earth, the rise of life, evolution, all the wars, everything. If that was all condensed into 1 year, right, guys? You follow me? It's like
All
a
of
Yeah.
Carl Sagan
evolution,
kind of
you're
analogy.
saying all of
Eh,
the evolution of the
This
material
Kyrgyz.
universe, everything condensed into 1 year?
everything condensed into 1 year.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
entirety of human civilization would only be the final seconds before uh, December 31st, the final seconds of December
Mm.
31st, the last second of
Still
the
can't
last
grasp it.
day.
Got it.
Yeah, it's
So we
hard to
get so
grasp,
what
but
what
I
do we get?
was
Like a few seconds? That's the math?
few seconds of the last day,
Few
yeah. And I
seconds.
wanted that to
Mm-hmm.
be emotional, and I tried to think of how to get that across because even Chris, who like we're all on the same wavelength, he's saying it's I don't grasp it. I hope everyone out there is grasping what we're saying. If
No, I
all
mean
of
I grasp it.
civilization,
It's really
okay,
hard. Like emotionally, very difficult thing to do.
you're right. We should take a moment of silence and think about it. But all the experiences of our life, all of our parents' life, the birth of the country that we live in, every kingdom, every scientific discovery basically happened in an instant compared to all time. However, we are not at the end of time. We are at the beginning of something unimaginable. We are, yeah, that's what's going on. The three of us are three of many thousands of students of our teacher, the Kabbalist Rob Lightman, the great Kabbalist, the great visionary in our time who opened up the books of the Zohar, the Ari, Bala Sulam, so that in 2025, a normal human being, if you can consider us normal human beings, can understand what process we're in and
Mm-hmm.
how to come into harmony with that gigantic, massive system. It's hard to fathom the size of what we're in, so that we can consciously rise from a biological, which our current state, this current biological state we seemingly exist in, to a whole harmonious, sublime future. I wanted to say hi to everybody, but I couldn't, for some reason, get our thing to open. Okay, now I got it. Hello, Sonia in Norway. Hello, Daniel in Colombia. Hey, Yetzi, Rex from Vancouver, and Maria in
Yeah.
Hungary, and Zorka in Belgrade. Of
Sylvie
course,
from
Patricia,
Netherlands. Dewey's in
Kanito.
Alabama.
Our Dewey? No, that's a different Dewey.
Okay, it's another Dewey. Maybe.
Yeah, we got the Philippines.
Multiple duties.
Right.
Andy. Oh my God, David Mancini, back to life in Quebec. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Great Transition. You know what we're doing here. We want to take what we received from our teachers, what we're receiving, and place those glasses on in front of us and look at this incredible process that we're in. Now, when we sit to study, when we open the books of the Ari, when we open the study of the Ten Sfirot by Bala Sulam, first first section of Inner Light, like the first page after the introduction, first part of the Bala Sulam's first little piece there, he says spiritual reality is eternal. There's no changes. And
Mm-hmm.
he even says, like in the second paragraph, I know it's difficult for beginners because without a masach, you perceive reality through corporeal boundaries of time, space, and motion. Like if you don't have the special spiritual filter, then the world around you, there's walls, right? Like Now I'm drinking coffee and talking to you guys. Later, I'll be going back to work. Earlier, I ate breakfast. Like there's time in every sense. Then I will drive from one place to the other. But in spirituality, we're not talking about any boundaries of time, space, and motion.
It's like if I took some psychedelics or something during the time of psychedelics, all that probably seems true. And then when it wears off, I'm back stuck in this cage, and I got my boss and wife, and they're nagging.
I saw an incredible, I wish I could find it. Some guy describes his psychedelic trip. It was a couple years ago in social media, probably Facebook or wherever it was. And he writes about this incredible, his ego dissolved, and he went into this state of oneness, and he was describing how great it was. And someone in the comments was like, "Oh my God, I had the exact same experience. My ego completely dissolved until my boss from Domino's called me and told me I was late for work."
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
unfortunately true.
so as a Kabbalist, we want to figure out how to make those, you could dissolve your ego, but you still gotta, go to work. So how are you gonna deal with that? You can't rip your face off with LSD and also like exist in the world. So we have our work cut out for us as Kabbalists. So from the Big Bang, which we perceive, because if we're gonna just talk spirituality, there is no time. But then we're going to have nothing to talk about here because we're going to be talking about Sphirot and Partsufim for an hour, and it's going to be hard to follow along. So, from the perception of a normal human being, the Big Bang took place 14 billion years ago. And for many, many billions of years, it's quiet, it's empty, it's dark. It takes 10 billion years, I don't know how many billions of years, till everything starts to cool. It takes billions of years until there's any such thing as a solid. Okay? After 10 billion years, whatever it is, cells start to appear in the ocean and the birth of the next degree of
Wait a second, but
evolution.
that's already crazy. Like why why then does an atom need to even form? Like
And
where do
Seth thought he
why
was
then do
going.
molecules
Seth thought he was gonna go into something,
not
into something here, and then
By the
not
way,
so
from our
fast?
sponsors, if you are like our show, we can send you Kabu mugs from.
Finish that sentence. No, that's I mean, if you're talking about that already, then why then do atoms even form in the first place? I mean,
oh
maybe there are
man,
laws of nature, but something's got to hold the things together. And then if you're even talking, and now where you have all these huge devices where you slam these particles together, and you're just like, what's going on inside there? And then you discover
yeah,
quarks, and you're looking for other things, and it's like we still don't get it. We understand that there's building blocks, but the fact that you can make a building block, split that building block, and find two more building blocks doesn't explain the fact like that there's still something that wants to hold them together, particularly this type
And
of atom. And
why?
then why? Yeah. Well, I'm not saying we
yeah.
need to give an answer. I'm just saying that's
Thank God,
already in itself
because
is
you just
crazy.
derailed the entire show if it's still time.
All
I was willing to go
right.
there. I was trying to judge Asaf's face. Are we doing this? Are we doing this right now? Okay, so we're gonna put a pin in that, Chris,
Yes, we
and
are.
we'll
All
pick that
right.
up
Oh
on another
man,
episode.
Okay. All
Um,
right. Bye.
so why we didn't get to the why because that's a whole other conversation. Why did it take that long? Why does it? Why do we perceive it as this many billions of years? But what we want, what I'm trying to communicate to you guys, is this: the what is billion? What is billions of years compared to a billion years? Compared, because then after plants came after 10 billion years, or what? However, I think Earth was 5 billion years ago or something. So eventually animals. Now, animals are only a couple 100 million years ago. So compared, it seems like a long time,
right.
dinosaurs and all that stuff. But compared to 14 billion years, it's
Well, bring the
not a lot of
example.
time.
Bring the example of time of the what's the example? A million seconds is 11 days, and a billion seconds is 32 years.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Is it?
Say it again,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
A
Can you
million
confirm that?
seconds is 11 days.
That's good. That's a good. That's a good. That's a nice proportion, like a nice scale. Because a
That
second
the
is,
gap is huge.
you feel a second, right? Then a billion seconds, you say, is 11 days.
No,
That's what you
a
said. A
billion
million.
seconds is 32 years,
Okay. A
and
billion
a million
seconds.
seconds.
I'm asking ChatGPT.
I am ChatGPT. I'm telling you right now.
Okay. Okay.
11 days is a million.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
All right.
crazy. That's
All
crazy.
right.
So when you say
Yeah.
billions of years, it seems like yeah, it's a lot more millions, but it's like a lot more, like unfathomable. Like why?
Yeah.
Why does it even need that? Sorry about the why question. I brought that up again, but it just seems like a lot of
No,
time
we
needs
should
to
be
pass.
opening up. Yeah, it's good. We should, like, on behalf of everybody here, we should be opening all these up
Yeah.
these questions, and it should be causing us to be asking these questions. That's what we're doing here.
Oh, good.
So, a couple 100 million years ago, animals and the oceans fill up, and Earth fills up. Dinosaurs, mammals, birds, and then within the last few 100,000 is humanity and civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, if you took all of that time and laid it out as a year, like a whole year from January 1 to December 31st, everything, all of human civilization is just the last few seconds of December 31st, if that helps
I'm
you
even
get a little
surprised
bit.
we got a few seconds in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we went also, like, we went from using stones as tools
Mm-hmm.
to building space stations. We went from 500 years ago, the
Yeah.
Gutenberg press, 1400 whatever, to AI, which I know you guys would talk about for 20 episodes if I didn't put up any resistance to that. Okay, so we are on what's called a hockey stick curve. If everyone doesn't know what that means, the shape of a hockey stick, it's straight, 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 straight until you get to the end, and then it curves like that.
Yeah.
We are civilization, our emotions, our understanding are evolving faster and faster than ever before, faster than we can even comprehend. And we're reaching the precipice of that curve where it almost starts to ascend vertically.
What does that mean?
So
Like every day there's a change, kind of thing. Some
let's say
significant change.
even more probably. So what happens next won't take millions of years. It won't take hundreds of thousands of years. It may not even take decades. We're officially in the era of rapid transformation.
Right. I think we need to, like, I feel you. I feel what you're saying. I think we need to chew it a little bit
Yeah.
for anyone who's listening. Maybe when we say exponential curve or a hockey stick curve, that not necessarily something that everyone is used to thinking about. I don't know if we have any visual or anything, but I mean, there's one good example that I really like just to understand the difference between linear and exponential, right? So if you take 30 steps linearly, let's say, I'm pretty short, so I don't know if a step that I take is a meter, but let's say it's a meter, right? Let's just for the sake of maybe
Give
it's
me the
half a
benefit of the
meter.
doubt.
Yeah, just let's say that every step I take is a meter. So if I take 30 steps linearly, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., to 30, I can move from here to 30 steps away, 30 meters away. That's linear progress. But if I take exponential steps, the same meter, but this time I take 30 exponential steps. That means I take one step and then I double every step. So the next step is 2 meters, the next step is 4 meters, the next step is 16 meters, the next step is 16 times 16, I think that's 256. So, and then the next one will be 256 times 256. That takes me, check this out, do the math for yourself. That takes me to the moon and back and then some. And
Is
that's
that also
That's
A
30
million? How
meters
many? That's a million miles,
exponentially.
right?
What? I think the
How
moon
many
is
miles?
about 350,000 meters away. And I think 30 meters, we can do the math, but this is, I've checked it, many times before. We can do it now if you want. But basically, that's what's going on.
So
So,
exponential is
so
actually is just like it's
exponential
even hard to
means,
fathom 30. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, here's some numbers. You want some numbers? I'll give you numbers. Um, hopefully. No.
No,
Okay.
numbers are
Wait.
good. Numbers are good right now because we're trying to take like have a, like an emotional grasp of like where we
Kevin,
are
Kevin in
in
Ireland
history.
says he doesn't believe my science. Kevin, I don't believe.
That
But I'm
sounds
asking
like
Chat.
Kevin.
Okay.
I'm
Here.
asking
Here.
Chat
Check this out.
GPT. Okay.
Okay. The distance from the Earth to the Moon is 384 million meters. The round trip to the Moon would then be 768 million meters. When I take 30 steps exponentially, I end up taking 1 billion point oh seven meters of total distance. Right? So that means first step is a meter, the second step is 2 meters, the third step is 4 meters because it's exponential. Exponential means that every next step is double the previous step. So 4, 16, 256, and so on. What's interesting about these exponential curves is that if you look in the beginning, it doesn't look like much. Okay, so it's another step. So, 256 times 256. But then when you get to step 15, step 20, the amounts become huge. The changes become
I
really
said
colossal. And
if you
that's
if
what's
you
crazy, yeah.
add a penny, if you add on day one you have 1 penny, on day two you have 2 pennies, on day three you have 4 pennies, and then 8 pennies, and then 16 pennies. So Perplexity says if you exponentially add pennies for 365 days, starting with 1 penny and
Yeah.
doubling the amount each day after 1 year. So after billion, you have trillion, then quadrillion, and then quintillion, whatever
Yeah,
that is.
there is such a number.
You'd have $18 quintillion after 1 year.
1 year, just
Doubling
just
from a penny.
exponentially doubling a penny. There you go.
Yeah,
So
Kevin
so
from Ireland, you
right.
should double check that my science, but
No,
Transistors is also another one like we had with
right. Moore's law. You're talking about
Moore's law.
Moore's law. Moore's law. Basically, yeah, he noticed that basically, I think it is. We end up putting we double the amount of transistors on a chip every year and a half to 2 years, and that's why today you have a smartphone that is, I think, about 1 billion times faster, cheaper, and more powerful in terms of computing power than the computers they used to land to do the
To
first moon
fly
landing.
Apollo.
So
And we're running out of room. There's like not enough atoms space in between each transistor now, which that's just if I love talking about like
the next phase is
lithography
quantum computing, obviously.
and quantum because you're out of
That's where we're
space. We got to
going.
go above space. We got to go above
Yeah.
time. We got to get
Yeah.
spiritual or
Yeah.
whatever.
But anyway,
so the purpose of explaining,
exponential. Yeah. The purpose of all this, exactly. Yeah. Go ahead. No.
well, no. So please explain to us, because we could just
Yeah,
nerd
so I
out here
mean,
for
the
an hour.
the
And I don't know
crazy
if everyone
thing
else
is
gonna
that
enjoy it.
what's when Seth drew this for our dear audience, yeah, right? When you drew this sort of timeline of Big Bang, material evolution of just planets, galaxies, and so forth, until about 4.5 billion years ago, the formation of planet Earth, and then a few billion years of just developing inanimate and vegetative life, and then 100 million years the animate life, and so on, and you end up with this just a little bit, just 200,000 years ago, the beginning of Homo sapiens, which is ultimately us. You see that nature is developing in this exponential curve. And what does that mean? That means that even though there was a ton of time preceding us, there was very little change compared to what's coming. And what's coming is exponentially huge in terms of the changes, meaning the amount of changes in such a small amount of time. That's
when
where
we
we're
say
going.
change, when we say change, though, it's always like I don't know if this is correct, right? But when we say change, it always seems like with respect to our technological abilities. I don't know, uh, wheel to I don't know. Let's say fire. Well, fire is not. It is technology technically, but it's like what things that we're discovering about nature, like ways that we're able to harvest nature's resources for our own benefit in a more efficient way. Like,
The
how do you
biggest before,
define what does it mean? You
before,
understand what I'm saying?
before, yeah,
I,
before autos. Go ahead, Asaf.
no. I'm just intrigued. I would like. Okay, maybe before you answer, I'd
So,
like
so
Chris to repeat the question in
okay.
more words because I think I know what you're asking, but maybe I'm not.
Okay, I'll say
Okay.
it quickly. That whenever we're saying humanity is that what you're saying, nature has this exponential curve. We're
Yeah.
always measuring that by what we see with our eyes as far as how technology progresses us. It's always technology, whether it's fire,
No, but
and
Seth
then you've
just.
got
Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
right, because now we're like, well, look how good we did. We had vacuum tubes, and those were transistors, and that was just 50 years ago. And now we're down to like playing with atoms, and then we're saying, wow, look, this is advancement. This is evolution, but it's
But
only with respect, kind of to
no,
technology. You
but
understand
that's
what I'm?
that. I think that's how we see it and interpret it. If you look at before humans, look at all of nature's evolution as far as we know, as far as our science tells us, right? Um, uh, Stop it at 200,000 years ago, like before Homo sapiens, right? Still, you see an exponential curve if you consider the amount of change. That's what I'm talking about. The amount of
Amount
change
of
you see.
change. That's
Yeah,
Think of
that's
a
the
think of
that's
a
the
or
think of
the
a
pace
papaya
of
tree.
change. How much
Think of a
change
papaya tree
happens.
versus just like an exploding star. Like just think of the difference between like an exploding star and just being in cold, dark space for 5 billion years, and then sitting in Hawaii eating a papaya. Like just
Okay,
think of the difference in.
here's that's a good one. Here's a different one. Okay, so I believe, and maybe the biological evolution scientists here will correct me in our audience, but I think the very, very first form of brain is flatworms, which is about half a billion
no.
years
That
ago.
sounds right.
So it's like imagine it's like just as far as I understand it, it's like a cluster of neurons, right? That's all it is, really. It's just a few neurons like bunched together, kind of thing. I don't know how much is a few hundreds, a few dozens, I don't know, but just a few neurons, right? And that's the first brain on planet Earth. That happens 500 million years ago, and today you have ChatGPT going from, I can't remember the numbers, but it started from like a few hundred thousand a few hundred thousand of parameters to a billion, to a few to maybe 200 billion it is today. I can't remember. But
Yeah.
so that's an example. And also look at humanity. Look at how our brains have changed. Look at like Homo erectus is about 2 million years ago, I want to say, something like that, right? So I mean, Homo erectus learned how to control fire. That was their big thing, right? Then for
Yeah.
about
Good
2
job.
million years, they didn't do much more than that until Homo sapiens come, and we didn't do much with our brains for 150,000 years maybe, and then or maybe more, and then only 10, 12,000 years ago starts the agricultural revolution, which is essentially where the human begins to control the still vegetative and animate levels, which is essentially the Kabbalistic view, I would say, on the agricultural revolution. That's basically what's happening. So you have, so what I'm and then look at like not ancient history, look at like more recent history. You have, the Middle Ages. You have a few hundred years where not that much happens, and then you have, okay, electricity. I think that's a great example, guys. If I'm going too deep now on a
I'm
tangent,
so
and
into
you
it.
want,
Keep
Yeah,
going.
okay,
yeah, keep
okay.
going.
So I think electricity, I think,
By the
can
way, I
help
love it
us.
when you do these tangents. I wish I had some like popcorn here.
No, I'm excited
Yeah.
about electricity. Electricity is cool. It's so funny. I think that's gonna help us get into a like a vibe here of what, try to conceive of what we're really talking about here, right? So electricity didn't exist until 200 years ago, something like that didn't exist. The world was not electrified. Is that a electrified? You know what I mean? Like
Sure. Uh,
global electrified.
unless you consider the Baghdad battery. Remember the Baghdad battery? You heard
What's the
about that?
Baghdad
Doesn't matter. I'm
battery?
throwing you off anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like that ancient artifact that they found. It was like this, like, oh,
Hmm.
anode cathode together with
Never
some
heard of it.
with some liquid in between, and they found it. And it would have been like thousands of years old, and it would have been a way
Wow.
to conduct electricity. Okay, forget about it.
Okay, but the
Yeah,
world.
there's
Okay,
some,
so that's like a unique thing that maybe
but that is interesting
maybe
because
the
there's
Jews
always
did it
someone who's a
4,000
little
years
bit
ago.
ahead, but it never spreads. There's always like little pieces of it way
Okay,
before. All right, keep
but
going.
but even if there were these interesting phenomenon, right? But the world didn't become globally electrified only until mid last century. So for we exist for say about 200,000 years, and only in the last 150 years or so we actually became, running on electricity. Now, just think about this for a second. What's electricity? We don't even when we go into a room, you expect there to be a light switch. You expect electricity to just be there. You don't even consider what it means to live without electricity. You don't even think about the fact that people 99.9% of human history was without electricity. And I'm not just throwing 99.9%. Do the math. Think about it. It's 200,000 years, and only in the last, it's about 99%.
The
You
same
know,
thing about the internet.
Fraction of a percent.
that's crazy, and it's hard to imagine how life was without electricity. This is just,
Without the internet. Without
the
your phone
internet,
and the internet.
Right.
Imagine
right?
people
The
on your
internet, the
phone and
smartphone, the smartphone. Think about it. How crazy it would sound to someone who lived just in the previous century, right? In the beginning of the previous century, how crazy it would sound if I would tell them, in 100 years, like a 8-year-old can like record their face and send it to the whole world, and billions of people around the world can see it. That would be insanity. That would be like crazy. Like what the hell are you talking about? And the smartphone came out in what, 2008? It's 20 years, less than 20 years ago. And so this is the crazy thing about exponential change. We are in it, and we get used to it. And it just becomes so natural, so pervasive, it's so everywhere that it becomes the water we live in, and we don't even question it, even though 20 years ago there was a different reality. Smartphones didn't exist, 30 years
Us
ago.
us
This is
getting used to it is
crazy.
also
This is a
interesting because the fact
crazy
that we get
thing.
used to it
It's a
is also, it's
crazy
like the
thing.
change is then implemented. And once the change is
Yeah.
implemented, it's like hardwired
How,
inside of you.
yeah. How
That's it.
adaptive of a creature
So
we are, huh?
the
Where
Earth is
Right.
spinning at 1,600 kilometers an hour. 1,600 kilometers an hour,
Yeah.
right? It's very fast. And we don't feel like we're moving at all.
Right.
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 Or that you were like standing, this guy's standing in this direction and the other guy's like standing on Earth in that direction, and they look.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
perspective. So Chris, when you asked earlier, why did it happen at 10 million years? Why did that happen? So we're not going to open up, obviously, right now, this whole question of like why is everything happening. It's a fascinating, and we should do a whole show on like why is everything the way it is. But what we want to get to today is we want to shake everyone up a little bit to this,
Right.
to feel for a minute where we are
Where we are
in
now.
humanity's evolution, and just because we don't feel it, it's irrelevant because you're actually spinning at 1500 kilometers an hour, or
And
if
you
you're
don't
at
feel a
the,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and you don't feel it. So just because you don't feel it, it's not
Right.
relevant. You should understand what's going on and where you are and what's happening to all of
Yep.
us. And let's harmonize with this process. Let's be involved in this process. We are now things that used to take billions of years to change, to shift from rocks and plasma and stars to sunflowers and papayas, and from sunflowers and papayas to dinosaurs and lions and the giraffes, and from dinosaurs and lion and giraffe to caveman, and from caveman to us three sitting here in across the ocean from each other, talking to friends all around the world, talking to Kevin North Cork or wherever he is, and all our friends all around the world, right? Like that's it's just absolutely normal that I'm gonna like click a button and I'm
Yep.
gonna be talking to you guys across the world. I don't think anything of it. And in
And,
fact,
and
if it doesn't work, I get annoyed.
And the
You know?
crazy thing is, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, what is this crap? The internet is not working. You know, that's a funny. Louis C.K. has a nice kind of bit about how like everything's amazing and we're not like, and we're so like
Yeah, he's like, if the
fat and
internet doesn't work
lazy
on the
and like,
airplane, he's like, what the
yeah.
hell?
Yeah, it's funny, but it's a good insight into human nature. It's exactly what we're talking about. We're so adaptive. We get used to the new conditions, the new environment, the new tools we have. They become part of us. This technology we think of is really an extension of us. If you zoom out and you look at human beings suddenly starting to drive cars, and you think about that and you compare that to, I don't know, cells in the human body that are moving, traveling, and traveling in their whatever thing that carries them, like
The
different
bird's eye
cells.
view of the freeway and seeing all the
Yeah, exactly.
intersections yeah, it's
And
cool.
so what's technology? Is it really some cold metallic artificial thing, or is it part of nature? Is it an extension of evolution? And if so, it means that it's a part of us. And if it's a part of us, then what is it really? Then the whole thing becomes like a really different picture when you start
I
looking
have
at
a
it that way.
I have
Yeah.
a couple of examples I thought about where first of all, if a change like let's say like we got iPhones today and tomorrow there's like the new thing, then in that 24-hour period would be like whoa, and we'd be like whoa, that was a change. If the change is spread over a few years, then we're like, oh, okay, like yeah, I could feel this happening, and it's not as abrupt and it's not as surprising, and you don't feel it as much, right? It's not so. Just for an example, like this whole what are the LLMs built on, right? What is this AI model, these neural networks? How are they built? They use these things called transformers, right? It's just a way I'll just use like very layman terms, like it's a way for the computer to have like a memory of the thing that you're talking about, right? So like yeah, this one they use it in tokens. So it's like just imagine I'm able to listen to what you're saying for like 5 seconds, and like that's all I can handle.
Hold on,
Like
just
I
for
got five
everybody
seconds.
else besides you two who don't know what the heck you're talking about, you're right now talking about like ChatGPT and all the like
Yeah,
AI
sorry.
stuff, right? Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you. So like when you interact with ChatGPT, if you want to keep talking, like you're like your wife just keeps talking forever, and at one point you just kind of like zone out. You're like, okay, that's like I don't know what you're talking about anymore. He's limited, right? And so whoa, those things came onto the this concept of like of how to do that, how to make that a thing that we can interact with, and it has memory and we can talk with it, right? Even if it's limited. So already now, right? And Google came up with this idea, and then it was implemented. Already now, there's a new way of doing that, and they've of course modeled it after the human brain, and they're looking at the human brain and like trying to understand what is it about us that forms memories. We're going so deep into the process of how biologically it happens right within us. So consciously, a memory is formed. Like they give the example, how often do you drive down the road and you're thinking, well, I'm driving right now. You're never really thinking like I'm driving. You're always on autopilot unless something happens where usually typically it's kind of like a surprise event. I don't know. Maybe
A
there's like a
deer jumps
bird,
out or something,
a
or
deer. Yeah, a
bowls across the
deer.
road.
Exactly. Or you see some kind of some accident happens. You're like, whoa, that happened, and then it's like a forms of memory. So they're saying, how can we do it? So they've already kind of come up with a technical way of creating these memories within within the construct of these large language models to where it can handle basically infinite memory now. So it's all so, and we'll just say a couple of years. I don't remember our show where we talked about ChatGPT. I think it was like I don't know how long has it been out? A couple of years ago, and they're already basically like 10x, infinite x that
This is
ability.
here's the crazy thing. You talked about when was that when ChatGPT came out? Yeah, we talked about it and we were all like excited
The Will Smith
to
spaghetti.
like play with
That's all I
it
got.
and so on. That was when do you think that was? That was the end
A year
of
ago.
2022. It was the end of 2022, like or beginning of 2023. So 2 years ago, 2 years ago, this is such a funny thing, and we were like, "Wow, you can prompt this thing, and it writes a song, it writes a thing." Today,
Uh,
I'm like, man, you know, I don't like it. Give me another version. Give me another version.
Trash,
Give me
trash.
nah.
Next.
That's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
you know what I mean. So
Nice try.
this is such a funny thing. We
Yeah.
get used to it. This is what's so crazy about exponential change. It happens so fast, but we also get used to it so fast. It's such a weird thing. So it's like by the end of this century, who knows where we're gonna
Right.
be? That's what people I
So,
think need to understand.
and people have
No one knows. Let me just say it before we go deep into it, and I can substantiate it. Maybe there's a better word later, but no one knows what's gonna happen in a few years from now. No one knows. That's really the reality. No one knows how life is going to look because the amount of change that is coming, particularly due to AI, but it's other technologies as well that are going to converge with it, are bringing about so many huge questions about every aspect of human life: economics, politics, governance, money, work, all that stuff, agriculture, ecology, society, values, education, everything is going to dramatically change, and we're not even sure exactly how. We can go into the questions that humanity is going
Well,
to have
wait a
to
second.
face, but
So the
yeah.
change, but now that we're seeing this change, these exponential changes, like they would always when they talk about fission, right? Like the power of fission. Like we did fusion. We did that a long time ago. We got nuclear reactors, bombs, and stuff like that was cool. But fission is much more difficult to make happen, right? Just you have out in the vastness of space, you have gravity working on these particles, and it squeezes them together, and that's no problem out there. You have plenty of stuff to. But here you have to create this environment where it's like making it happen. And they would always say, it's 25 years away. It's 25 years away. It's 25 years away. A few years ago they were still saying it's 25 years away, and now there was like some breakthrough in China where they're like they held it for like over 1,000 seconds, and they're saying basically it's happening. So what like with the introduction now of AI, which is basically just you could think of it like this: it's just the human mind able to do a bunch of calculations way faster, and you can have billions of them happening at the same time. That's kind of, it feels like that's what's speeding up time. Like that, if it would take you and me 10 years to think
Yeah.
about something, now you can have a computer think about it in 1 second and it's done. So what is it about this like
It's like
flow
the
of
the speed of human thought is being
right?
accelerated because
Yeah.
with AI, it's being that's what I would say. And also, it's not just that the speed of human thought, it's also the speed and the bandwidth of thought. The bandwidth is expanding, the speed is accelerating, and the distance between human intention and product in the real world and action in the real, a result in the real world is shortening. All of this is happening at the same time, Why? Because again, like what you said, if I have a problem in science, right, and I need and I have 10 scientists to think about this problem for years, for a few years. So they work on it and they try to solve the problem. They also get distracted, by the way, and they also need to eat, and they also need to have a family life, and they also need to pay the bills and go to the bathroom, right? And
Yeah.
then this scientist with a few other scientists are working on this problem for a few years. Maybe they'll come up with something. But
Maybe.
imagine if you could put in an instant, you could just click a button and you have 10,000 scientists working on this problem 24/7 without rest, without eating, without stopping, without getting distracted. Now the amount of progress you're making is 1,000-fold just in a click. That's the power of AI. That's
So
what
then
we're
that's what
talking
that's
about.
so that's the question.
And
So
and
what is progress then? So what is that? So why is exponent like what? Cool. Yeah, we're definitely in that time right now. That's definitely happening.
Like
Things
you
are
get to
changing.
like to me,
That's the question.
what
That's
you
my
guys are
question.
talking about uh,
this
is
is where it's
like
going. It's not exactly there yet, but it's getting there really, really
I know,
fast.
but what I like when I'm hearing your conversation, it's like me getting a play-by-play of how the cells smashed and pulled and eventually became a plant after billions of years of being a rock. Like you're talking about just the mechanics of it, which I know is really cool, but
You don't
it's
think that's really
I actually don't think it's that cool, but no, I mean it is cool. It's cool stuff. But
Yeah.
it's we're really deep in the weeds and like just to pull out to get perspective on it. Like that's like what is happening if you're witnessing it just the same way if you saw billions of years of inanimate matter turn into vegetative or if you saw
Yep.
vegetative
Great point.
turn into animals like it would if we had a podcast at the
Yeah.
time when vegetation turned into the first animals our minds would be blown as like how these new connections are being formed and more
Yeah.
complex nobody ever thought of it I thought of mangoes and I thought of papayas but who ever thought of a peacock it's like it's the same thing you're totally leaping
Yes.
degrees so
That's
I
the
just
real
want
craze.
to
That's the inspiring thing. That's the interesting thing. What are we turning into?
Yeah. What are these changes?
What
Like
so
what
that's
what
are
is
these
here's the
changing?
changes
thought
essential? What's the
yes
essence of these
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah.
Exactly.
so let me give an example at the end of I know you guys have heard of this but at the end of the 1900 in London there's 50,000 horses moving people around and in New York City there was 100,000 horses moving people around and every day a horse produces 20 pounds of manure and 2 pints of urine and the city planners were very very concerned that by within a few years they would be these cities would be buried in manure,
Right, and then
right?
they came up with the sewage systems. It was a whole thing. There was a huge problem. I think in England they came up with it first. I'm not sure,
Anyway,
but
hold on.
yeah.
So the point is that cars were invented, and there was no more horses in
No, but
cities,
they came up with
and
the sewage system too. There was okay. Yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
but the point is that that problem and the way they were thinking about the problem. What are we going to
Yeah.
do with the manure? And there's going to be double the horses. It's not a problem. There's no horses. Okay, you have other problems, but the point is that nobody thought the same thing happened with Kodak. It was the biggest camera company in the whole world, and they had a monopoly, not a monopoly, but they controlled the whole camera game. But they missed the boat completely on digital cameras because they weren't thinking out of the box. So, what we want to say today, where we want to open your mind to and open your hearts to today, is what is humanity's next step? Because it's not going to take millions of years and it's not going to take thousands of years. And it's probably not even going to take dozens of years until we go through this transformation. And now we can zoom back into what the guys here are talking about, how what the development that used to take all this time and now machines are doing it and they're doing it at thousands of times the speed and then nobody needs to sleep. It could just keep going on and on. So now let's imagine that like this hockey stick, we're right there. Now guys, Clara, if you know Clara, she's also in our Kabu environment. She asked a question. Where did it go? do people also become exponentially more consciousness at time, or do they develop also spiritually in an exponential way? So
That's a
what do
cool
you
Say it
think?
question.
again. Say it again. Do
That's
Do
a cool
people what?
people
question.
become also exponentially more conscious?
So
Ooh,
like we have all this
nice,
external these
nice.
external changes, and we definitely see exponential development in these external changes. What's going on? That's
Oh
kind of
my
my
god.
question at the very beginning.
Oh my god.
Like what
That
is what's change?
guys.
What's actually changing
Okay,
here?
that threw me to something really
It even looks like you like went through a wormhole
but
for a
it's like
second.
it's not
Yes.
As we start the show with 15 minutes left. All right, yeah.
oh my, oh man.
You
But
go, just do it, and
yeah,
then we'll
yeah.
stop you if you.
Me and Chris
but,
spent
but
45 minutes or 50 minutes trying to get you to open up like this. And when we finally get there, you don't want to
no,
do it.
because it's I wasn't expecting to get to this topic. It's our hard to digest topic. But but
Well, that's
Clara's
for the
We can
question
challenge.
just
digest
Everybody
it.
here is up for
kind
the
of brought
challenge. We
it
want
back. Okay,
answers.
okay, okay. So ask Clara's question again. Do people will human consciousness, or let's say spiritual development, will that happen
Do
exponentially?
people become also exponentially more conscious at
Okay,
time? And do they develop also
okay.
spiritually in an exponential way?
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, so here's what came to my mind. So, and part of it is something we talked about, and part of it just connected now. So the a thing that's really fascinating about the development of AI from a and we're zooming out. We're not talking about the technicalities of it now and the nerdy geeky things that Chris and I like to geek out on, right? Just in general, if you look at humanity as an organism, and from a Kabbalistic perspective, humanity is a single system. It doesn't matter that we see bodies live and die and change and so on. It's a single organism, it's a single entity, and it's evolving, and its evolution is actually the evolution of consciousness. But it appears to us, it manifests in our experience as something that feels like living in a body that lives and dies. But it's actually a spiritual evolution that's happening all the time. Even what we call the material universe is our experience of spiritual evolution, and it's just under concealment, and that concealment appears to us like time, space, motion, matter. And so this is what's actually happening. Humanity is a single system, it's a global organism, and it's gradually developing its consciousness. What is happening with AI, if you think about it, when you ask something in ChatGPT, what is it that you're interacting with? What is it that you're interacting with? You're interacting with the collective knowledge of humanity, more or less, on average, right? When you type a prompt into a text to image model like DALL-E or Midjourney or Flux or whatever it is that people are familiar with, basically people know today, right, that you have AI generated photos and imagery with you type words, you get the images, right? What is it that you're doing? You're interacting with the collective artistic talent and skill and experience and capability that has been sort of crunched into a model but collected from all of humanity. And now you, a simpleton, right? Let's say who is not an artist and not Van Gogh and not anything. You can type a few words and you can tap into that artistic power of humanity. So what AI is doing is it's gradually putting the collective knowledge and experience and capability of the entire organism in the individual's hands. So gradually, every individual becomes integrated with the knowledge of the entire organism. This is kind of what's happening today.
You
Now,
mentioned. Wait a second. Before you
okay,
go into the next
this is
point,
this is the part where I
I'm
need
gonna
to
build.
decide if I go controversial or not.
All right, so think about it for 5 seconds while I
Okay.
bring this up, because remember you talked about, and I love thinking about this too. Remember when you talked about how humans like started driving cars and stuff? Remember, I mean, you could say boats, and then first there were these little ants on the world, and then they get in the boats, right? And then the boat takes them over there. then you get in the cars, and then you have highways, and the highway is also kind of just representative of like this circulatory or whatever kind of system inside of a body, right? You can liken it to a body that has all these little pieces in it that are like driving, and you're building up these like organs inside. You have these nodes all over the world. Before, they were just individual places, and now they're all kind of connected by whether it's like highways in the sky, highways on the ground, right? That's cool. That's like the physical body needs to like go and then get in a thing. And now when you bring up AI, you're already talking about kind of like the development of the brain part of it. Now before, you know what I'm saying? There's a difference. There's this like thing where I need to move my thing, and then but really before that there's the internet, where the internet starts connecting ideas a little bit. But now you're already talking about something that's like I'm using kind of like the ideas,
The
the minds,
collective
the
brain,
the collective brain.
It's like the global brain of
Steph, you're
humanity
muted.
becomes
You're
like
muted, Steph. You look funny when you
something
do that, and you're
that's
not.
Oh,
We have
sorry,
no
sorry. Let me show
audio.
you something. In the first book that I did, the first like the leaf, like the I don't know if you could see well, but like how it grows,
yeah.
and then then
We
like
see it. It's a little
lungs,
blurry, but
like
we see it. Yeah, we
A
see
little
it.
blurry.
then
but
lungs
yeah.
do the same thing, and then when you get to
Yeah.
how cities were formed, like
Awesome.
it's the same
Awesome.
network that
Yes.
now. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
like yeah.
Basically and this is exponential development, because think about it. For many years, artists were working on honing in their art and figuring out how to do this kind of shading technique or modeling.
That's a Van Gogh.
And
Yeah.
exactly. They've been doing all of that, and now all of a sudden, this is exponential. All of a sudden, whew, all the organism has access to it and can use it with a few keystrokes, right? So that's the power of exponential development. Now, how does all of that have to do with the Jews? I told you.
Stop him, Seth. Stop him. Stop
Always
him.
Okay.
comes back to the Jews.
No, let's hear. I'm kind of curious now. What, Jews?
I think we're gonna have to stop.
Not see that coming.
Right.
I told you.
Although you have my
So
attention now.
imagine.
But you got
if-
7 minutes to make it happen. So go.
All right.
Oh man. What if you had, out of all of humanity, what if there was a group that was creating some sort of a unique kind of connection, and that group comes from all of the pieces of mankind, all the representatives of humanity, all the different kinds of different types of human beings that exist in the organism. Remember, humanity is a single organism. It's a single collective organism. And now you take cells from here and here and here and here and here and here, from the hand of humanity, from the legs of humanity, from the eyes, from the brain. You take cells that represent the entire body, and then you let them create a new hyper-speed, hyper-bandwidth connection between them. So this group of cells can now work in a unique way, in a way that is not how the entire organism works. The entire organism still works in a slow way, let's say, and that unique group goes and creates like a special kind of connection. Now you take that group and you give it a few thousand years to roam across the entire body and collect and absorb the knowledge and the needs and the traits and the properties of the entire organism. And now the only thing you have left to do is reassemble that unique connection in that group, and boom, it spreads to the entire organism exponentially. Okay, I don't.
Got it. I got it.
That was
You
1
got it?
minute, bro. That was
That-
very impressive.
That's a record.
Oh man.
Yeah,
So-
and now
so-
I hate
so-
that even
okay.
more.
So okay, hold on. This is
There you go.
excellent. This is an excellent place to be. This is an excellent place to be right now.
I don't know if it is,
What we
man.
need to do. No, what we need to do now is feel.
If you're listening for this for the first
process.
time and you have no idea what we're talking about, then
No, it's
I
good.
understand
Listen, even though the transition happened from inanimate after billions of years to vegetative, the entire universe didn't get covered in vegetation. There's one part that the vegetation starts and grows and develops from. And also with the animals. Animals didn't just cover the entire earth in 1 second. It was slow. So, but it's getting faster and faster. And also humans, they started in Africa. Then they moved up to the Middle
Yeah.
East, right? And then they moved over here. So you didn't start harvesting and doing all this human stuff all over the whole earth. So now the same thing. When we're talking about this next level of development, what we're calling actually inanimate, vegetative, animate, human, and now we're going to do the next leap. The way we leaped from plant to animal, the way we leaped from animal to human, now this straight up part of the curve we're talking about is into the spiritual leap, straight up from here. So this
Yeah.
this group you're talking about, maybe you can slow it down and take 2 minutes and do it again. That the in order to make it happen, it's not about computer chips, and it's not about cars versus horses. It's about more complex connections between different parts.
Yes.
The quality,
And essentially, by the way, any intelligence at the end of the day is that. Even in AI, we see it.
right.
It's not the amount of knowledge. It's not. It's the complex connections between the individual pieces of a system that make it smart. And the same thing happens in our brain. The same thing happens in neural networks. Basically, how deep and wide and interconnected it is at the same time is what
And
makes
how the
a
different
system.
layers communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to connect humanity on a deep level, you would have, if you're nature and you want to create this super smart collective global organism, you have to create intricate connections, numerous intricate connections between all different layers and parts of humanity. How do you do that? Well, we just discussed how. So if you caught it, you caught it. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
Wow.
Hey, didn't see it coming either. I don't.
So
we
cool.
can-
So we're just. Yeah. No, sorry.
No, yeah, I think you and I are on the same wavelength. So go
All
ahead.
right. So then go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
You're the Jew.
What I do have is prepared in advance is a quote from Kabbalist Michael Leitman, our teacher, about AI
Oh.
and the future. It's just a nice
Even if
kind
you're
of
talking about Jews, that stuff
rapping
has
quote.
to come back to AI.
All right. I'll hear.
Okay, go ahead. We got.
Kabbalist Dr. Michael Leitman said the following a couple of years ago. Actually, in 2021, before ChatGPT was even a thing, right? At least in the public, it wasn't available to the public. It wasn't even known. This is a year and a half before. So he said this: if AI is really successful and efficient, why not let it run the entire world of medicine and the world of the judicial systems and transportation? Let AI run everything. That state would actually help humanity. It would help human beings in understanding their true destiny. It getting to know, recognizing, I'm translating this on the fly from Hebrew, recognizing that everything is artificial and everything can be solved technologically would actually help us clear ourselves to work on our human level, which is creating a positive, healthy environment between us, creating a positive, healthy society between us that will encourage us and advance us to discover the one unified force that governs everything together, both man and the machine.
We are so lucky to be
I don't wanna say
engaged in
anything
this.
else.
Thank you,
Yeah.
system. Thank you, God. Thank you, everything, for opening our eyes, for bringing us a teacher in this generation, and
Yeah.
for being able to be part of this transition that humanity is going into. We will probably see in our lifetimes a transition to humans becoming spiritual creatures. It's an incredible experience, and we're asking everybody to not miss the opportunity to engage in it, to learn about it, to read about it, to connect with others about it. We'll be back to continue this conversation next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys. Big hug to everybody.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
We wanna know what makes your heart sing. We do. We wanna know, does connection get you boiling? We do. We wanna know what makes your heart sing. We do. We do. We need you to know, this connection got us boiling. It do. We've come to tell you of the future. Each is loved by one and all. We spend our days doing good to others, and we all come to be as one. We wanna know, do we make your heart sing? We do. We wanna know if we could sing this love song to you. We want you to know that you make our heart sing. You do. And we need you to know we sing this song to bring joy to you. We are